Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome back to I Could Be Wrong. Good morning, bro.
Morning.
All right, hopefully everybody's having a great week, getting ready for another fantastic week coming up. This is the last weekend of the year without football. Thank
Yes.
goodness. We made it. We finally made it. You can see down in the corner there, we have the countdown to kickoff clock. It'll be with us all the way up until the Chiefs and the Lions kick off
Spectacular.
next month. Um, we're going to kick off this show with some predictions. I'm going to give my predictions for the NFC. Three divisions. We already did the NFC South about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to give my predictions for the other three divisions in the NFC. Next week, we'll run through the AFC. Then we're going to talk about one of our favorite players, Nick Bosa, and briefly touch on his contract situation. Justin's going to give us an update on some injury news, some training camp news, and then we'll just talk about whatever else we feel like before we get out of here. So hopefully you enjoy. Please hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends, and we're going to go ahead and get started here. The first topic I want to get started with is my NFC East predictions. I have the Dallas Cowboys. I can't believe I'm saying this. The Dallas Cowboys finishing first in the NFC East. Philadelphia Eagles right behind them at number two. The Giants at number three, and then the football team from the Washington, D.C. area, number four. I think that it's going to be a tight battle between Dallas and Philly all year long. The reason that I picked Dallas, honestly, is because there hasn't been a repeat winner in this division in like the last 15 years. So that's the reason I went ahead and went with Dallas. I do think Philly's got a great chance to repeat as division winner. I just think they have a really tough stretch in the middle of the season that's going to be the determining factor on whether or not they win the division, and I think that they're going to struggle. So that's my NFC East predictions. What do you think?
Yeah, I really can't argue with it. Honestly, this division always seems to um, really just provide a lot of suspense. I
Yeah.
guess you would say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parity within inside the division usually on any given season. The Eagles are a phenomenal team. I actually have them as repeat division champs, and I could see how you would put the Cowboys there. For reasons that I thought you might point out would be because the Eagles actually have a brutal schedule towards the end
They
of the
do.
season.
Yep.
They play some really high quality teams, but nonetheless, they may rise to the occasion, just hopefully not against the 49ers. But yeah, I have the Eagles, then the Cowboys, the Giants, and then the Commanders, or whatever they're going to be called. Just
Yeah.
wild. But I can agree with you having the Cowboys there because again the Eagles do have a brutal schedule towards the end of the year. They don't have a cakewalk schedule
No.
this year. Like I wouldn't say they had a cakewalk schedule last year, but it wasn't as
Definitely wasn't
high
as tough.
quality
Yeah.
as this year's schedule is going to be for them.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, some of the reasons, obviously, other than there hasn't been a repeat winner, Dallas has a really solid defense.
Really
It,
good.
it didn't, in my opinion, didn't get worse.
No.
Not that they got a lot better, but they didn't
Yeah.
need to. They had a really good defense. If they can, get the quarterback to not turn the ball over, which he keeps saying that he's not going to do. I've seen a few
I've seen
interceptions in
training
training
camp
camp,
clips
though.
that show
Yeah,
otherwise.
so I mean, they really, again, if they can protect the ball, which hopefully for the Cowboys fans, not for me, hopefully for Cowboys fans, last year was just a speed bump for Dak Prescott. I'm not sure about that, but we'll see. Again, I think Philly, like you said, they have a brutal stretch here. I'm looking at it. I pulled it up. And remember, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I made a bold prediction that they were going to lose 6 games straight. Not sure, not sure how confident I am in that, but I'm gonna
That's why
say
it's
it's
a
going to
bold
happen.
prediction.
That's why it's a bold prediction. I think it starts in Week 9. I think they lose to Dallas. I think they go on their bye. I think they lose to Kansas City. Buffalo, San Francisco. I think they lose to Dallas again, and then they finish up with a trip out to Seattle, where I think they honestly lose all 6 of those. How it's going to happen, I don't
Tough.
know. But that's a brutal stretch there. Every one of those teams was in the playoffs last year. They all have very good defenses for the most part. Seattle is no slouch. They are going to be a team to be reckoned with in the NFC as well. We'll talk about them in just a minute. But overall, I think that Philly, just the strength of their schedule, the fact that the NFC East typically cannibalizes each other as well,
They do. And
it
speaking
gives
of,
Dallas an edge, I think.
you see that they have 2 games against the Giants in their last 3.
Yeah.
So the Giants gave them fits, actually.
They
They
did.
played the Giants a couple times down the stretch, and one of them wound up a blowout. The other one was a lot closer than
Yeah.
people thought. But in that blowout game, the Giants gave them fits before it turned into a blowout. And
Yep.
in their division games, again. So
Exactly.
they beat each other up. I mean, I could see them losing possibly 8 out of their last 9.
It's very possible. They could also win 8 out of their last 9. So
Right.
we'll see. But I'm going with Dallas. Rest of the division just kind of falls in line. I don't think the Giants have enough to really make any noise. They may make a playoff run again,
Yeah.
end up in a wild card, but not enough. They don't have enough to make any noise as far as winning the division.
They're a better team. They've added some talent, but yeah.
One thing I will say about the Dallas Cowboys is they're starting to sound like they're fans. The players are starting to sound like they're fans because all they do is talk. That's all we've heard from Dallas all season, from the owner, the players, the coaches. They're just talking. For their sake, hopefully they can back it up on the field. But I don't think it's going to happen against the more formidable teams.
Yeah.
All right, so that's my prediction for the NFC East. We'll be right back to go over the NFC West. In the meantime, please leave a comment. Tell us what you think about the NFC East. And don't forget to like and subscribe and be on the lookout for more content coming soon. All right, everybody. Next up, we're going to go ahead and give our predictions for the NFC West. I'm going to go ahead and give my predictions on the screen. Then we'll get Justin's reaction and see what he thinks. So, first up, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Woo! Bang, bang, Niner gang. I do believe they are the best team in the NFC West, very possibly the best team in the NFC. We'll see about the best team in the NFL. Then I have the Seattle Seahawks at number 2. They are going to be a very good team again this year. I think that another year with Pete Carroll is going to help Geno Smith. Not sure he's going to throw 33 touchdowns like he did last year, but I think he's going to have another solid year.
Might have to.
He might have to. That's very true. And then, to be honest with you, the Rams and the Cardinals, they might battle it out for the cellar.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of questions about Matthew Stafford's health. Reports are that they tried to trade him a couple of times, or teams called about him, and they didn't turn him away. So that lets you know what they think about his stage of his career and where he's at. This is probably going to be his last season, I think, as a Ram. If he does play anymore, probably end up retiring. And then the Cardinals are just a dumpster fire. They're terrible. Quarterback is hurt, coming off an ACL injury. Colt McCoy, from what I've heard, I've got some Cardinals buddies. Not very good, not looking very good in training camp. So I think that the Cardinals may be battling it out for the number 1 pick in the draft by the time the season gets finished up. So there's my order. That's what I think is going to happen in the NFC West. I'd like to know what you think. What's your reaction?
Well, I was just sitting here thinking about it, and I had the same exact order. But as you were kind of talking about, I'm just thinking, like, I'm actually going to move the Cardinals above the Rams, and here's why. Because I believe there's a lot more reason for optimism in Arizona. Even though they are a dumpster fire, there's a lot more youth there. They could potentially have 2 top 5 picks in next year's draft.
Yeah.
Because they got Houston's draft pick. So they're set up for success. Now, never mind the owner, all that stuff like that. When we're thinking strictly in terms of football, they are in a youth movement. Kyler could come back healthy. They still have Marquise Brown. They have a lot of young players, some talent. We'll see how the coaching can put it together. The Rams, they don't have anything really to be optimistic for. They have no draft picks. They traded away all their assets. No one wants to trade for their aging players. They have some youth, not a lot.
Not a lot.
I mean, so I actually am going to put the Cardinals above the Rams. And again, it could go either way. But I do like the 49ers at number one. I think they are the clear-cut number one team in that division.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of analysts actually have predicted the Seahawks to win the division. I think that's garbage. I don't think they're as well coached. I don't think they have as good a quarterback situation, or never mind the quarterbacks. Their running back room is just in shambles right now with injuries. So that's what I was saying. Gino may need to throw for 33 because their running backs are banged up. So I do like the order. I had it originally the same way, but just thinking about it right now as we're talking, I'm just going to move the Cardinals above the Rams this year. I think they have a lot more to be optimistic for.
I can see that. I went with the Rams mainly because of Sean McVay. I think he's a really good coach. But you're right. They don't have a lot of youth on the team. Yeah. They don't have a lot of flexibility. They basically mortgaged everything for the Super Bowl that they won. I mean, obviously it paid off for them when they traded. That's what they wanted. But I think now, those checks are being cashed as far as what they did to their roster and their draft picks, and it's going to be a little while before they are a contender again, in my opinion.
Sets them back a bit.
Yeah, so I could see why you would put Arizona ahead of them. I think Sean McVay is enough to not that either one of these teams is going to contend for the playoffs. I think they're going to be 3 or 4, maybe 5-win teams at best. Yeah. So they could flip flop. I'm going to go with LA simply because of Sean McVay, though.
I like it.
All right, cool. We'd like to know what you think. Go ahead again, as I mentioned, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us how you think the NFC West is going to shake out, and we'll be right back with our NFC North predictions. All right, next up we have our NFC North predictions, last division for the NFC for us to break down. I'm going to go ahead and give my predictions again, and then we'll get Justin's reaction. And as usual, I'm going to ask that you leave your reaction in the comments. But for the North, I have the Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, and then the Chicago Bears. I'm going to go with the Lions based off a couple different things. The way they finished last year, they finished really strong. Obviously, they prevented the Packers from making the playoffs in that last week. Just a really strong finish to the season. I think Jared Goff has really kind of got comfortable in the second half of the season with the offense. They got a lot of young pieces, really well coached. I'm not saying their coach is elite, but he's a really good coach. He's got a good staff around him, and he lets them do their thing. So I think Detroit's going to win that division. And then after that, we were just talking about it, and I agree with you. Anything could happen between these other three teams. I know Minnesota had such a great year last year, and I don't want to take anything away from them because they had a lot of close wins. They had that huge comeback, the biggest comeback in NFL history. A lot of good things happened for Minnesota last year. Ball bounced their way a lot last year, and typically when that happens, teams usually regress back to the mean. I think that's what's going to happen in Minnesota. Obviously, huge loss with Dalvin Cook not being there, and I think that's going to impact them a lot more than what people are expecting. So that's my order. I think any of them could finish in any order after Detroit. Obviously, Chicago picking up DJ Moore was big for them. Huge. Yeah, I think that if they can really, again, continue to tailor their offense toward Justin Fields' strengths, not ask him to do too much through the air until it's needed, I think that Chicago could definitely, give the other two teams a run for second place. But I think this is Detroit's division to lose this year.
Yep, I like it. I definitely like Detroit. I think Jared Goff's the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. He constantly plays at a high level. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
No.
He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. So I think with the talent they have around him, they draft Jahmyr Gibbs, albeit some people would say a bit early, but I think they plan to use him in a fashion that warrants it.
I think he's the next Alvin Kamara.
I was going to say you made comparisons. Comparisons.
Yeah, I like that.
He made a comparison.
I made a comparison.
With Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
And I like the comparison, honestly. They have a lot of similar skills. I do see Gibbs getting a lot of catches this year. Fantasy players, beware. Montgomery will likely get a lot of the touchdowns, goal line work.
Yep.
If you think back to last year with Swift and Williams,
Yep.
just kind of how that played out. But nonetheless, I like Detroit winning this division. They should be a better team.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown's a beast. They should get Jamison Williams back halfway through after 6 games.
Yep.
Who people say he's just going to be phenomenal. So the rest of the division, again, it could go either way. I actually have Chicago, then Minnesota, then Green Bay. Minnesota lost a lot of key players, not just Cook. They traded away Zadarius Smith and a couple of other key players they lost. Green Bay, really, really young team. Jordan Love now taking over at quarterback. He's going to be throwing the ball to Watson, so there's going to be growing pains there. And then in
I like Watson. I think he's.
I like Watson a lot.
I like him a lot.
And I have Chicago in finishing second because of the addition of Moore, and Fields actually completed almost 70% of his passes like the last 6-7 weeks of the year, which is really good. And he didn't have Moore as a weapon, so I think it's going to make a real difference for him this year.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I think if they can just keep him in his lane, right?
Yeah.
And only ask him to do things through the air when it's absolutely necessary, and really trust his legs, I think that Chicago could finish second.
Yeah.
I have them, and again, these three right here are probably going to be really close. So I mean, it's going to be like a fluid situation throughout the years. But I have them finishing just below 500 or so. I would say 6-10, somewhere in there. Just probably going to have some growing pains with Justin Fields still.
Yeah.
But I think that he's on his way up. That's for sure. He's on an upward trajectory. I just think that not quite there to make a push for playoffs or a division title right now. Yeah. So those are my NFC North predictions. His NFC North predictions. We want to know what your reaction is, and what is your NFC North prediction. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with your friends, and we'll be right back to touch on the best defensive player in the NFL. Be right back.
It's not Micah Parsons.
All right, everybody, we're back. We're going to talk about Nick Bosa and his contract situation. By now, I'm sure everyone knows Nick Bosa is not in training camp with the 49ers as they work out a new deal. I think he's going to end up being the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. Definitely not concerned right now. I think that as we all know, the 49ers don't plan on letting him leave. They don't plan on not signing him. They're just keeping him out right now because they don't want to get hurt. Nick Bosa's side, he doesn't want to get hurt and miss out on getting paid. I don't think there's any reason for concern unless he doesn't show up week 1, which I think there is about 0.00001% chance of that happening. So for those of you that aren't 49ers fans that are hoping Nick Bosa doesn't show up and isn't available or ends up getting traded or something like that, sorry about your luck. It's not going to happen. So that's my thoughts on it. No reason to be concerned yet unless he's not there week 1, which again, I think there is almost no chance of that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 49ers and general manager John Lynch are well aware that he is their best player. They don't have to worry about tying up money on a franchise quarterback long term, which is good for them. They have a quality QB room, but they're still, at a stage where they're in their rookie contracts. They don't have to worry about it. I think the deal's going to get done. He is their absolute best player. He makes that defense go. He was the defensive player of the year last year, the sacks leader.
38 sacks last 2 years.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
He leads the league. I was reading a report the other day. He leads the league in sacks, tackles for loss, and quarterback pressures over the last 2 years combined.
Yeah. I think, and again, the 49ers historically have a history of waiting and being patient to get deals done with their players, usually into the preseason, after training camp and stuff like that. I would say as a fan, I would get concerned if they get to that bye week between the final week of preseason to week 1, deal's not done. Yeah. Then you start going, oh man, you start cringing as a fan because you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, very true.
And you're like, I want to watch week 1 football. I don't want to be happy about it. But if Bosa's not there, I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see.
Again, I think there's very little chance of that happening. I agree that it's going to get done. The 49ers would be foolish not to to pay him. I mean, again, as you mentioned, he's the best player on the team, offense or defense.
Come on, Lynch.
He's the
Get it
best
done.
player. I think they're definitely going to get it done. I know there may be some concern about him being in shape since he's missing training camp. I believe it was Fred Warner earlier this week. They asked him about if he had any concern. And I think his quote was, Nick Bosa is the last person that I'd be worried about being in shape. So I'm in the
Right.
same camp. I think that he's always in phenomenal shape, always keeping himself in shape. So I think even if he misses like all the preseason games, as long as he's there for, like you mentioned, that 2 week period, I think he'll be ready to go week one. Maybe play a few less snaps week one while he gets himself in game shape. But I think that there's no reason for concern if he misses time about him being in shape and having to work himself into shape.
He'll be there.
So he'll be there. He better be, John Lynch. All right, so that's our take on Nick Bosa and his contract situation. We'd like to know what you think. Please leave a comment. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back in just a second, go over some training camp news, and then kick you knuckleheads out of here. All right, everybody, we are back to wrap up this session of I Could Be Wrong. Justin's going to run us through some training camp news and notes. And then, again, as I mentioned, we're kicking you guys out of here because we got shit to do.
Yeah, man. Well, training camp is that time of year where players make big plays. Everyone gets super excited. You know, all the fans are watching. I mean, there's been some big plays. Guys like Jalen Hyatt for the Giants. He's a rookie making big plays. Another rookie, Quentin Johnson, wide receiver for the Chargers, making some big plays. You got second-year guy like George Pickens making some... just a beautiful catch. So some really good stuff and really neat stuff going on in training camp. I think rookies and second-year players are going to have a major impact in fantasy this year, much more than in previous years. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll talk about that in a later episode. But on the flip side of that, training camp also has some downsides, and unfortunately, some big names have went down already with injuries. We'll start with Cincinnati franchise quarterback Joe Burrow.
Smoking Joe.
Hamstring could miss time up into the regular season. So that could be huge.
I mean, they said several weeks.
So
who knows how long that is.
Cooper Kupp, hamstring injury. Obviously the best offensive player on the
coming off
an
injury, right?
Coming off of an injury.
He's already hurt again.
He's already hurt. And these types of things, those types of injuries, especially for a receiver, linger into the regular season. So fantasy players, watch out for that. Then on the other side of the ball, you got guys like Jalen Ramsey out for the year, defensive back for the Dolphins.
Is he out for the year now?
He's out for the year. Jalen Ramsey's out for the year.
Wow, I missed that news. I knew he was out for like 8 weeks originally is what they said, right? 7-8 weeks?
I'll have to double check on that, but I could have swore the original report was a season. We can check that. I'll move along. Jeff Okudah, not season ending, but still, again, very important part of the Falcons defense. He's defensive back. Tim Patrick out for the season.
He's out for the season. That's a huge loss for
Wide
Denver.
receiver, Denver.
Huge loss.
Garner Johnson, defensive back for Detroit. They just picked him up in the offseason. So training camp, big names again. So big names going down. So a lot of optimism on one side, and there's a lot of, oh man, we got to take it easy. These are the things that are going on in training camp. I will say, watch your rookies and second-year players, especially on teams that don't have guys locked in at their wide receiver one and running back position, because fantasy-wise, it's going to be important. Those guys will likely get opportunities. And then I do want to say there's a couple of running back rooms I want everyone to stay away from right now. Seahawks running back room.
You mentioned last week,
Yeah, well, we mentioned last week, McIntosh was shown out. This week, he goes down with an injury. Charbonnet, he returns to the team. And then you got Kenneth Walker, who's still out with injury. So stay away from that backfield. And then you also have, goodness gracious, I had it. The Dolphins backfield. So the Dolphins, I say this because they have aging running backs. They're going to be running back by committee, but they also have rookie running back Devin Achane, who had looked good, but the highlights have slowed down,
Mhm.
and he just sustained an injury.
Yeah,
So
he
you want to
just
stay
got
away
hurt.
from that backfield for a little while until you know exactly what you're going to get.
I agree.
So there's my training camp news and notes and some fantasy news.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously some good insights in there. Some good nuggets for people to have. I think, as we mentioned, that Tim Patrick injury is huge for Denver, just because of the way Sean Payton, the way we think he's going to run their offense. I think that Tim Patrick was going to be a big part of that, playing that
Yeah.
slot receiver. Um, it's unfortunate every year. Obviously, injuries happen. Injuries are part of football, but it's
They are.
unfortunate that that happens before any of these guys actually get in a real game.
Yep.
Just practicing, trying to get themselves in shape, get that muscle memory, things like that. So, hopefully, speedy recovery for all of them. You never want to see anybody get hurt, but some big news, as you mentioned, some impactful injuries already, and we're only a week and a half into training camp.
Yeah.
So hopefully there aren't too many more. Obviously, we anticipate there will be, simply because it's football. But hopefully there aren't too many more, and we can get a semi-healthy season of football in as we go through this wonderful time of year. As you can see down there, we are 32 days, 7 hours, and 59 minutes away from kickoff.
Woo!
And I can't wait. So that's all we have for this week. We appreciate you guys watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with your friends. Be on the lookout for more content coming throughout the week. And we will catch you next weekend for another exciting episode of I Could Be Wrong. Thank you.
See you guys.